So, Elliot, what are we talking about today?
Well, it's a very special bonus episode with extra content, all the stuff we couldn't fit into all the other episodes, all the outtakes, and here for you to listen and enjoy.
This episode is called Bonus Content.
That's so strange hearing you do my bit.
I try and do an Elliot impression. I try to say it like that as well.
Welcome back. We're here again. Welcome to the editing room of the Podcraft. Here for a special extra bonus mega episode of Don't Wake the Baby, full of all the bits and bobs that got cut out. Some of it's very funny because it's like little outtakes and things that are less professional, even less professional than the main content. But some of it really is like interesting bits that we just couldn't physically fit into some of the episodes. So some interesting stories and extra all sorts of things.
See, I have no idea because I can never remember what we've said. So it'd be a surprise for me too.
Well, looking back at how we've gone over this pilot series, this first series, it's been quite exciting. And hearing people that have like listened and are enjoying it, it's very strange.
It is. Especially people who I haven't talked to in years. Like messaged and be like, we really enjoy your podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't talked to you in 11 years. It's really nice you like it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of amazing how many of my friends actually have listened to it.
What's your favourite episode of the ones we've done?
Ooh. I mean, obviously I really liked my one with Becky, but that's because it had the excitement of Becky being there. And I don't actually see her very often. Weirdly, the first or the last one, I
Really?
enjoyed doing the most. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm trying to think which is my favourite. I like quite a lot of them. There's bits and pieces in amongst them. I like all the silliness, like when we go off on tangents and talking nonsense. So it's my cup of tea.
Sometimes I really try and get us back. I'm like, we've gone really far down this rabbit
Maybe it's
hole.
a difference because you quite like listening to kind of educational podcasts and things that teach you things.
Yeah.
Whereas
well, not always educational, also true crime. I like
that's true.
You know.
Yeah.
But fact-based.
Fact-based stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas the podcasts that I listen to, I really enjoy comedy and humour and stuff that's going to make me
Who
laugh.
says something about us than our personalities?
I'm the one with the script, and Emma's just here, to bring the
I'm
interest.
the amusing one.
You're the talent.
Yeah.
You're the one people want to listen to.
Exactly.
You're the one with all the friends.
It's true.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
Well, you're the vehicle how I can talk.
That's true. And I'm quite involved, I suppose, as a dad.
You are.
We're quite modern parents.
Yeah, we should do another podcast episode on that.
Yeah, we probably will.
Most people go, oh, you definitely do more as a woman. I'm like, you do, but it is up to you how much you do.
We're quite 50-50 with
definitely.
parenting. Ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding. Parenting achievement, level, time, unlocked. Boom.
Boop.
There we go. I haven't really thought of anything for this special episode. Do you want to share? It's been fun, hasn't it, when we've met with people who listen.
Yeah.
Very strange in the first instance, meeting people who listen, but also hearing from them like parenting achievements that they've had.
Yeah. So we were at a wedding recently, and one of our friends, who also has kids, her and her husband were telling us their parent achievement of they've managed to go away to this wedding and forgotten all the children's clothes. She was emphasising not just like their wedding clothes, like their pyjamas, their everyday clothes, everything.
Yeah. So you have like a big bag which has all the kids' stuff in, as you normally do, and you put it all together, ready to go, and they just left it behind. It's like, I feel like that's like peak parenting achievement. That's top level unlocked. Well done, guys.
What was impressive though, like, the kids looked great. They managed to replace their clothes, get the right stuff.
Yeah, I was really impressed. They were laughing about it, and I was like, I would have been really gutted and stressed. And but they rolled with it. I was very impressed.
I also can imagine we would have had a fight because I would have been blamed for this. Like, why didn't you pack the bag?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it probably would have been me because he doesn't forget things as much. So it would have been my fault. I can see it happening.
Yeah. We also had your sister was telling us how she'd had the same parenting achievement that we'd had, where in one of the episodes I shared how Lily had lost it and I'd carried her home and she'd weed all over me, and Becky had had a very similar experience. So good to hear that our parenting achievements are happening to other people as well. That's always good.
She literally said at the time, she's like, an Elliot achievement has happened. I've had to carry my child back screaming and they've weed on my leg. And she like videoed me as she was walking back to be like, I just wanted you to know I feel for you, Elliot.
If you've got an achievement you've unlocked, let us know in the comments below, or send us a thing on Instagram, a message, or put it in the chat in our listeners community.
And I can share it and not tell it as well as the original person. You could just say, welcome to the blanket fort. Potentially past, present, or future.
What are we talking about today, Emma?
TV shows.
Yes.
Kids' TV shows?
Yeah. Well, we like watching stuff, but I mean, our viewing stuff has changed a lot.
Just, if people don't know how this works, it's Elliot normally knows what we need to talk about. Then he tells me 5 minutes before we're going to record, and then I have to remember, which means you'll hear a lot of me going, something to each shows.
You're good at thinking on your feet.
Well, that's why I don't write anything down, because if not, I'll just be reading my notes and it won't be very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Whereas I have to have notes, otherwise I'll just be silent the entire time.
We work in opposite ways.
Yeah.
He needs a lot of preparation. If I have too much preparation, I will just read my notes and not think of anything.
Yeah.
And I come across like a robot. I sometimes feel like there's like another podcast nobody hears. So like nearly every episode I always go, and as usual I have a croaky voice, and he always cuts it out. But I will say it every time. And in my head there's like a separate podcast that exists that everybody hears me talk about how I'm always ill.
What else do you want us to cover?
Well, I thought, what
were we talking about? I was saying it's like blah blah blah, societal pressure, you feel more judged. Oh, I was going on to my thing about, I think, how the roles are more traditional.
Men versus women roles.
Yeah, that was it.
If you aim for like 15 more minutes-ish.
Okay, we're really going to have to speed through.
But you don't have to, you know.
He's good at cutting stuff out.
Cut a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just random.
Are you tired?
I'm exhausted.
It's the problem with it being parents and trying to do an energetic podcast. You're trying to bring lots of energy, but we're we're so tired.
I feel like my energy's very low today because I've got a cold as well. But
yeah,
power through.
every time we record, I feel like, my energy's low today.
Yeah.
This is the problem with this. You can't. If you could just wait. We'll wait till a day when we've got high energy. You know, in
like,
20 years.
I was going to say like twice a year. I feel energetic today.
Stay tuned till the end of the episode to see how the craft has turned out that we're watching.
Which will be beautifully.
And to see a parenting tip from one of our listeners that someone has sent in. We'll talk about that. And also to see a craft that someone sent in that a listener has done, and we'll feature at the end. And we'll give all the details of how to send your own things to feature then. But yeah, back to it.
Back to it. My break's gone. I'm a nightmare to do a podcast with. I've been hiccuping. Now I'm yawning.
I'm trying to keep this show on the road, Emma.
I already told off in the last episode I coughed.
Yeah, couldn't edit it out.
In the middle of us talking.
See what I'm working with. Trying to keep us professional. Trying to keep us professional here.
Oh, it's so hard to keep people professional.
We've misspoken a lot of words in many of our episodes already.
It's really, really bad listening back.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like...
I don't know what we're like to listen to. It must be terrible.
And it annoys me. I'm like, why did I say that?
Yeah.
That's not the correct word.
Who, it's a very different scenario TV then, isn't it? It's about Well, I don't know. We'll have to encounter that when
I
we
think
get
it's
to it.
more when they can choose it themselves. Because right now she needs one of us to click
Mm.
on the TV and say, like, what we want. Whereas I think once she has control of, I call it the Twitch. Nobody else calls it this. It's a family thing. They call it a remote. We call it
TV
a
remote,
Twitch.
yeah.
Once she's control of the Twitch, it'll be entirely up to her to a certain degree. I say to a certain degree because if I'm going to have to sit there and watch it, I'm still going to have a say about what we're watching. But yeah, I think it's different once they can be independent. And that's when you have to kind of do the thing of how do I control that they don't get onto a part of YouTube that maybe isn't okay. Because there is kids YouTube. But even then, some people advertise stuff as kids that isn't appropriate. So it's very tricky.
And there's a whole kind of, not industry, but there's a whole area of trying to work out, like, you know, watching stuff before your kids watch it to check it's appropriate, but like vetting things. So you'll find lots of forums online about like, oh, my kid started watching this, is it okay for that age range? And,
Yeah.
you know, that type of thing. Because there's, you know, new stuff popping up constantly. And I suppose that's the downside these days is you haven't got something like the BBC that has a monopoly on what your kids are watching. At least you know then that
Yeah,
they
you know it's
are
gone through
vetting
certain
it.
checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's a bit more freedom.
Also, like, once they have their own computer, they can Google anything. Like, they can watch anything. It's kind of, this is, my only thing was, I was talking to Rochelle this morning, who's our nanny who comes on Wednesdays, and I was saying, we do have an advantage in our generation that we do actually know technology. So at a certain time, let's say 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I'll be like, right, the Wi-Fi is not going to work for you now. Like, that's it. You're locked out. You need to go to bed.
We can do lots of clever things, can't we? We've grown up with technology,
Yeah.
so, you know, we can make sure certain apps
Yeah.
can't be downloaded
Whereas
or websites are banned.
My parents wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, lucky we were all very sensible, but they didn't know, you know, what was online or what we were accessing or anything like that. Because back then they didn't, you know what I mean? They hadn't grown up with the internet. That's not something they knew about.
And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, again, it will be different for Lily, but I know with some of your younger nephews that watching them grow up, that, you know, they get used to streaming services and they can't understand, you know, when they'd come to your grandparents' house at the time who didn't have, you know, they just watched live TV, they didn't watch streaming shows. They couldn't understand that you couldn't have any show on at any point.
show you
They were
wanted.
like, put it on now. It's like, well, it's not on TV.
No.
What do you mean
mum
it's
and
not
dad
on?
would be like, oh, well, you're going to have to wait an hour, then it'll be on. And they were like, but it's instant.
Everything's available
How
now.
How why do you have to wait an hour? And they're like, well, it's not scheduled for another hour. We have to wait. But my parents have slowly now got Netflix and Disney, and so that problem has been overcome for my grandchildren. But
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I suspect we're moving more that way. I mean, I work in technology, so I'm kind of a bit biased, but I feel like we're slowly moving towards a society where live terrestrial TV is a thing of the past, to be honest.
Yeah, I think then other than for big events, I don't think it will be as big a thing.
Yeah, live streaming like stuff and things, so everyone watches things
so like
live.
Eurovision, the Olympics.
Yeah.
I would say some football games. Both of us aren't into football.
Yeah,
but I assume that would still happen.
I can imagine all that stuff going through streaming services.
Yeah, no, I can. Even Disney being like, this is the England match.
Yeah.
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 I can imagine that.
Sorry, BBC.
But you're
we
right.
won't get into that. I think that's a contentious topic.
It's for us because we don't use it because we don't want to pay for a license that
we don't use
really
any BBC, do we? Cause,
the only thing we ever used to watch was Strictly Come Dancing. And even then I've just got over it.
Yeah.
Like, not in a mean way. It's probably still a really good show, but I kind of got tired of it being the same old. And if that's what we were going to pay the license for the only thing we watched, it didn't really seem worth it.
And we don't listen to radio. We don't use BBC News. We don't use any of their services really. Maybe the BBC weather, but even then, I don't find that the most accurate.
No, it's not. People want to know. I think AccuWeather.
Yeah.
That seems to be a lot more.
For us here, anyway.
Yes, if you're in the Harrogate area, that seems to be a lot more accurate. I've been caught out a few times with BBC weather, where I went to pick up Lily from nursery, took no stuff with me. It said 0% chance of rain. Poured down. I had nothing with me. Had to use my coat to shelter her as I walked back. Was not impressed. People don't know we've got a silence because he's fiddling with his laptop and I don't know what we're doing.
Well, we're coming to the end. We've come to time, really.
I don't know if we've discussed TV programmes that much.
We have a bit, but it's a broad topic. Like
That's
we'll
true.
dive into other, TV shows more.
Yeah.
The content of them, I'm sure, in other episodes. We'll revisit.
I think we were going to do like what's good and bad, but honestly, I have too much of a thing where I enjoyed the early 2000s TV as a child. So
yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia for it, isn't it? It's strange thinking how the stuff Lily watches in the coming years will probably be nostalgic for her.
yeah, that's true. It's going to be weirder because she'll be like, oh, you won't believe when they were young, they didn't even have that much animation. It was all puppets. You're so old.
Yeah, it's funny already that, I think kids can quite easily enjoy old stuff, but it's definitely true that Lily prefers some of the modern looking animation.
Definitely, yeah.
You show her some stuff that's...
Well, it's like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
She will watch the old Winnie the Pooh, but if she has a choice, she'll watch the new film because she prefers the animation style, because that's kind of what she's used to, is a cleaner, more crisp animation.
Yeah. I wonder if it will change again, and that the current trend of this very cartoony 3D model type animation will become what they see as like classic animation. Like for us, we look back and go like, oh, 2D hand-drawn animation. It was such a,
such an art
lovely time. That's very strange.
Yeah, it is.
So our topic today is about work and stuff.
Yeah. Work and stuff.
Work and stuff. Yeah. Probably helpful to start with what our jobs are and what we do.
I think I'm going to hiccup in a second. Just give me a... Okay, I'm not hiccuping. Okay. We'll see.
So we'll start with what jobs we do to give a bit of context to this. So...
I can't do it now, but I can feel it going.
We'll just wait patiently for Emma to hiccup.
I don't think I can though. Okay, I think I'm over it. I think I'm over the hiccup.
But yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people still go when they're 3, but I didn't go till 3 enough. Yeah.
Late. But it brings us on to the thing of one of my other sisters. This will be the catchphrase of all the episodes. One of my sisters.
Emma said it again. One of my sisters.
One of my sisters. Her little boy is about to start school and they've gone for those trial days. But she's not really impressed because he already goes to nursery and they're having the trial days now. They don't go till September. So it's like, for context, it's like...
July now.
July. So
did you not know what month?
Well, I was going to work out how many months we were on. But
maths isn't your
maths isn't my strong point. So I was really sitting there going, what month are we in now and how far is that away? Yeah. And my sister's point was that her son, it will seem like such a distant memory for him. And they're not in the classes they're going to be in, and they just let them play. And she wasn't very impressed by this because she was like, well, he's at nursery. He knows how to play with other kids. That's not going to be the struggle for him. The struggle for him is going to be, this is where we sit and we learn. And I mean, once again, it could get me onto the topic of I disagree a lot with the schooling system in our country in that we shouldn't just sit children down and expect them to sit there all day and learn. But that's another conversation for another day.
Definitely.
Basically, I think she said she thinks a lot of these days are actually for children who haven't been to nursery, just to give them a sense of what having all these other children around them is like. So yeah, it's probably very worrying for a lot of people when they have multi-births because there's a lot of risks and things.
Yeah. So you were in the hospital for quite a long time as a multi-birth. You, like you said, you were in the, what do you call it?
ICU. So like the I don't know.
What are the fish tanks called?
Incubators.
That's the one.
Yeah.
The big fish tanks.
We were on the incubators for a long time.
And they were helping you breathe.
Yeah, and they had to Mum said it was horrible. This is all very dramatic. They had to like take the breathing machine off you to try and force you to breathe yourself. And she said it was the most awful sound because we'd feel like be choking
Oh no.
trying to breathe. So yeah, I think it was very traumatizing.
Yeah.
It's when I think Mum's overprotective now. I forget where she came from.
What she's gone through, yeah.
Where we like, you know, at any point anyone could have died.
I mean, my parents don't really have that excuse. They're very overprotective, but
But you're their only one.
yeah, well, I suppose there's a flip side, isn't there? I don't know. It's like with twins as well. Often there's a thing of like the names going in a set order, or you like standing in a set way for people to know you. Like, you know, like the typical. I know they're not twins, but you know, Ant and Dec always stand the set way round.
Well, I always say.
Did you have anything like that?
There's a way I always say it, which I think most people did, where they did Kirsty, Becky, Emma, Laura. I don't know why it was always said that way, because that's not birth order or anything. But it seemed to be a set thing, people would say.
Yeah.
So, but once again, didn't really mind that. I was given my own name. Also, worked out well for Kirsty at college. So, this is just a side story. We were once asked to go to a lecture. If you're interested, it was English literature. And they were like, oh, for those who want to, if you go to the lecture, it'd be really good. And I was a very diligent student. So I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to go and I'm going to take notes. Kirsty, not a diligent student. She'll be the first to say she's, once again, academically gifted, but does not try. Whereas I was never as academically gifted, but I was a real, like, grafter. I would really work hard at everything. So I went to it anyway afterwards. Her teacher, because we had different teachers for English Lit, next lesson said, I'm so glad you went to that talk. You asked some interesting questions. I could tell you were taking notes really well. Kirsty obviously knew I'd been and was like, thank you. I found it very interesting. Afterwards, she told me, and I was like, hey, that was me. Why are you getting credit for going to a talk and asking questions? And she was like, hey, they thought it was me. I was taking the praise. I was like, yeah, sure. You thought I went to that talk? I did. So yeah, turned out well in some cases. Unless you're like me and you're very honest. And then you just watch other people do things and you're like, great. But then like video games and stuff, you could have played a lot of that by yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I did do some of that.
Whereas I used to get annoyed because Laura and me were both very into video games, but obviously to start with we only had one controller, so you'd have to take turns.
Oh, okay.
So I'd get very annoyed. I'd get so far on the level, and then she'd take over, and I'd be like, "She's gonna ruin all my good work."
Oh.
But she was quite good, to be fair, so she didn't often. But it would be that thing of you knew you had to give up playing for somebody else to play, and that was like, it sounded like idyllic if I could have played a game by myself uninterrupted.
Yes.
Say, be more grateful, Sunny.
This is a time when we can mention that this little project of ours is brought to you by us, Elliot and Emma, but also in partnership with the Kairos movement, which... how do you think you describe the Kairos movement? I've kind of said it's a network of dispersed groups around Yorkshire, meeting online and in person, kind of exploring faith.
In my head, they may disagree. I dub it as hippie church.
Okay, that's quite radical.
So, like, it's a way to have some faith-based things without it being in a traditional church setting.
That's true. In the sense that it's a reimagining of a different way.
Yeah, kind of free, do you want, explore.
Having said that, if you told me Kairos was hippie church, I'm not sure I would be
that
interested in joining. But it's very much our cup of tea of, something different. We're also supported by the Methodist Church in Yorkshire North and East, which is the organisation that I work for, and the Methodist Church nationally as well.
I was going to add in, and that I sometimes volunteer for, but I'm not paid.
Yeah, we're very involved with the Methodist Church. There's no getting away from that.
This podcast is sponsored by the Methodist Church. If you want to save your soul, listen.
Yeah, I don't think that's the idea, is it?
Do you have a thing for Wesley? Come to us.
We're a new podcast. Are we a podcast? A show? Something? We're something.
In my head, we're a podcast, but he really likes YouTube, so
We have a slight disagreement on this. I think
do.
Emma, we're a podcast who's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And for me, we're a YouTube show who's a podcast.
exactly. It's up to you to determine which we are.
Do share your thoughts with us. Join our Facebook community, our list. No.
I
don't want to know. I've just told you. I don't want to know.
We got tax back.
Great. Don't tell me.
Do you know how much tax we paid though?
You paid very little.
We paid 0 tax.
What?
But we still got 1,000 euros tax back last week. Because I couldn't understand it. I was like, we didn't pay tax this year. And he was like, yeah, but when we pay for the canteen and the nanny,
Oh, like
a
for
certain amount
objects
is,
and things.
a certain amount is automatically taxed.
Yeah. Like,
And so everything we spent on that has been, the tax of that's been reimbursed. Because Kirsty was
we
like,
also wanted to mention about how, like, you get given money in France after you've given birth. Like,
Oh, yeah.
With, do you know what I mean, with work and stuff.
This is true, yeah.
We'll try and do it chronologically. Yeah. I just normally do what I like. And then he tries to keep me on topic.
And then I try and,
Very, very different. So very medicalised compared to like a lot more freedom, I guess, in the UK system.
Yeah.
I think UK, maybe it's more
They do a lot of, like, you can do your own birth plan and
individualised
things.
type thing, whereas
Yeah.
in France it's very much, they just want it to be controlled environment, just very much safety first and everything. And actually,
Yeah.
it's very
But I do
less...
find it funny. I know ideally your birth plan would go to plan, but I always think it is sometimes a bit silly having a birth plan, in that it's great, but
I
it
think
puts a lot of pressure to almost, that's how you expect it to go.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was induced.
Yeah, with Nassim,
So
I
basically,
had a
none
birth plan,
of mine.
Yeah, the same
was
with,
a plan.
with Nassim. I had a birth plan, and that ended up being basically thrown out because he was too big. I had to be induced. Then one thing after another kind of just went wrong with that birth, and it ended up being not at all what I'd envisioned.
Yeah.
But so that was basically the main difference, I think, between those systems. Because I remember talking to the midwives there and saying, "Oh, with my first, it was like this, blah blah," and they were like, "Yeah, in France, it's very much medicalised, and it's not as like if I wanted to leave the hospital, I would have to have the say of about 2 doctors before I could leave, and they have to both me and the baby have to be cleared to go home."
Well, I think that's similar.
But it's very like. This is why I said it was a lovely... this is why I said I felt like it was a socialist prison. It was a lovely place to be. But I felt like I just wanted to go home at a certain point. And I kept being like... And everyone was really nice. Like, honestly, people were nice to me. The food was good. Nothing... Like, no complaints. But I was just... It just felt like a bit... Especially because you're so tired. It just felt like a bit... Like, I was just wanted to be in a more familiar place. I know it was COVID time, so already we're all crazy. But anyways, that was the main difference, I think, between the birth.
Start of it. Elliot will probably cut half of this out, I'm going to tell you now.
Yeah,
Get to the juicy bits,
yeah. I'm sorry. But anyways. So, I know a lot of parents who I speak with at the creche that I might have to mention, like, oh, so-and-so, like your kid, they might have bit someone today, but it's actually completely normal. And, like, for that age group, it's developmentally normal to hit and all of this.
I think that is much more positive in England, in that I think I've always been aware they're normal behaviours.
Yeah, and I think...
and even, like, my nursery, so my daughter came home with a bite, and, like, my only upset thing was that they hadn't mentioned it because they hadn't noticed. I remember I wrote them a message, and I put, I don't mind that she's been bitten, in that that's normal for their age group, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
In here, it's a lot more normal. That we're like, well, yes, children have these problems.
Well, I think as well, because in some of the creches where I've worked, the staff were so worried when a kid got bitten that they would feel like, oh, the parent of the child that's been bitten is really going to be upset. And so they were really trying to, like, put pressure on the parents of the child that bites, like, But the thing is, you can't do much at that age.
No.
It's really more, we've done certain like training courses and stuff, it's really more observing the child. And because if you tell a 1.5-year-old, don't bite, well, they'll remember that for about 5 minutes. And then when they're next in a stress
That's what I mean. You've got to look for triggers and why they do it.
They will just do it again because at that age they haven't yet kind of associated, like they can't remember like the rule is don't bite. It's very much reactive.
Yeah.
So what we try and do is like you try and, well, this has kind of gone off into like psychology of children, but basically I was saying when I meet with these parents and sometimes I have to say, because they have to be aware.
Yeah,
that's
of
part of
course.
the day thing. And the parents are sometimes so ashamed and they're really like, I'm so sorry. And I try and be like, no, that's perfectly normal. But I think because it's the child isn't in a home environment, everything is very, very different, and they feel a kind of pressure.
Yeah.
For their child to conform, for their child to be speaking already, walking already.
I think that's universal for all parents.
Yeah,
in
but I
that
think
everybody compares.
When they're in that group environment, it's more clear because it's like, oh well, so and so is the same age and they're already walking, or they're.
I'm about to cough and Elliot will get annoyed. So
Shall we cough together?
Thank you. He gets very annoyed that he has to try and cut around it when I cut in the middle of a sentence.
So I think that's different as well. This is where he's going to have to cut out loads of this because it's way too long.
Loads of it.
The school, when my son first started school, and it was after the lockdown, the confinement. So we
need to get onto that at some point in the future. But let's just say their lockdown, our lockdown, very different.
Ours was actually a lockdown.
Theirs was very strict.
So anyway, he didn't want to speak French when he went back to school because he'd had basically a whole year with me, and even though we tried to facilitate speaking French, it was very difficult.
And he just wouldn't speak French to you.
Yeah, he just wouldn't speak French to
me. I remember, she
really
really tried. And he would just look at it and she would speak French to him and he would just talk English.
Yeah. And then he would say, we don't speak French, Mum. We speak to each other in English. And I'd be like, we do. But you need to, when you go back to school.
You're not having any of the French influence at the minute.
He could speak very good French. He understood very good French, but he was very shy and so the teachers would hear him speak to his friends in French, but when they asked him to answer a question, he would clam up. He wouldn't be able to answer. And so I went to talking with a teacher who wasn't that experienced, and she basically was telling me, you shouldn't speak English to him anymore. But because I had already been working in France, I think 4 years then, as a bilingual teacher
in a bilingual school,
I felt I had the authority to say, no, that's not how...
That's not what the science says.
That's not what science says. That's not how bilingualism works. And I'm not concerned that he's not confident enough yet.
Yeah.
Like, it will come with time.
Basically, science says if you're a native speaker, speak your native language.
Yeah, basically. And not to criticise people, I know for some reason sometimes people don't do that, but it is the best thing for their identity. Because there's a lot. Well, this is a whole thing, but this is also what
Let's get into the science. This could be the
this is what I did
segment.
This is what I did my dissertation on, was to do with identity and language. And so basically, I said to her, like, we will support him speaking French. We will get him on French play dates.
You'll watch things.
We'll watch things in French,
yeah.
exactly. But we are not going to change our language to speak at home because that's counterintuitive.
Well, I was also told that this is also as my career as a linguist. I was told that often you will teach them it not necessarily wrong, but because you're not a native speaker, you will always have a different inflection, maybe a different accent.
Even though,
so they're not going to learn the best French from you.
Even though my husband speaks French fluently, my husband would argue that I don't speak as fluently.
In his defence, he is more fluent. But
he has no accent because he's learnt it from being very, very young.
Yeah.
You will still not use the idioms, expressions, etc. that a French person would. And so if he's going to learn French, it's best for him to learn from someone who has grown up with the language.
And who even has that cultural context to know what certain phrases, like, you may know the phrase, but you may not know the way a native French person may use it.
So anyway, so I didn't go fully into this, but I basically said to her, like, I respect your opinion, but
it's wrong.
But you're wrong. And it's funny because she kind of then, I think in her head, dismissed him as like, oh well, he's
not going to learn. Yeah.
And now, so she's not his teacher anymore. They change teacher every year, but now he's the top of his class. I think because he was bilingual, actually, that gave him an advantage in certain things.
Well, especially, and he's taught English now.
Yes, and now he learns English in class,
And
but of course
I'll have you know, he corrects a teacher.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's switched the other way, where he's actually a bit bored because his French has...
Yeah, caught up.
He's caught up, not just caught up, it's surpassed the French of his, his classmates that are French. If we're going off on a tangent, I think the bilingual... Well, actually, he's trilingual, but I think having lots of languages has helped that, basically. I think it's just good for the brain, if that's an opportunity you can have.
Well, you are making me think. I haven't read my French books to my daughter recently. I really better get on it.
Well, it's what opportunities come to your life, isn't it?
Well, no, it's very funny. Me and Elliot have a thing that Elliot wants to learn better French because he wants to help, but he was like, how will I do it? And I said, well, you just have to be one lesson ahead of Lily. So you need to like revise beforehand.
Anyways.
You'll at some point been through that first week with a baby. Maybe if you might be going through it now. Who knows? Or
Good luck to you.
expecting it if you're like approaching that point.
Yeah.
We've got such a diverse audience. I can never quite nail.
Surprisingly, we've been talking. We were quite a substantial audience of people who have no children.
Yeah. We're trying to make sure our content caters specifically to those with like babies and toddlers, and we're not. Yeah. You're enjoying listening to us, so that's the main thing.
And it would make that noise. And
The only problem was it was clever in that the idea was it would wait and hear for her to cry, and it would hear that and turn on the white noise or the heartbeat.
Yeah.
But Lily didn't really cry. Like she would be up and kind of
wriggling around,
wriggling, and she'd be like making little noises, but the machine didn't recognize it as crying. Like by the point that she'd got to crying, it was far too late.
Yes,
It needed to turn on well before
we
then.
needed it to detect little movement.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty good. Like,
it was good. Useful.
Yeah, it was helpful. Because even sometimes if you just stood up and clicked it on, that would be enough to get it back. So that was handy. Sorry, that was my thing of if people are expecting a baby. I found that very useful.
No, it's good. I think mine are the same, really, in terms of best buys we got and technology.
I think people often get those, is it a grow egg or a something egg?
What, they tell the temperature. Yeah.
A lot of people say they are a waste of time.
I always like the idea of that, because like I said, I really struggled with knowing the temperature.
But I think a lot of people said like it would just panic them that their baby was hot all the time. And the real thing is like, I think that one of the midwives told me was like, feel the baby's neck. And like, if that feels hot, it's hot. If the baby doesn't feel hot, then you're fine.
I still don't, but that's still based on feel. And like, to me, I'm always cold, so the baby's always going to feel hot. Do you know what I mean?
True.
Like,
at least there's two of us. We can like work it out between us.
Yeah, we just needed a third random person who was an average temperature who could come and be a checker.
Yeah, true. But they were. I just know a lot of people got rid of them because.
So that's a good flip question then. What did we get that was the worst thing?
And also, very important, they're crying a lot and you can't take it anymore. Put them down in the crib. Walk away for a bit. They'll be fine. Just leave them somewhere safe. Because honestly, we've all been there. We're like, I can't stand another moment of a child screaming. Just take a break. It's fine. They'll be fine.
I really thought I was a patient person. Before we had a child, I was like, I'm the most patient person in the world.
I will never lose my temper.
I think I'm still like a pretty
very
patient person, but I was really tested.
Yeah.
I am not as patient as I thought I was.
But when we buy a house, I have a really fun idea where maybe I'll keep it in to see how fun my idea is. I want to do that thing where we have a secret room. So even if it's like a room that's just adjoined from ours, I want to put I don't know, a wardrobe or something in front of it so the kids don't know.
I see. So like completely hide it from the kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not just so we have like a space.
Yeah.
For us. Do you like this idea?
You want a secret little space just for us
Just
in the
for
house?
us.
Do you now?
Not in a weird way. Like in a we could keep.
What are we doing with this secret little space?
I want it to have books in,
Okay.
and all your geeky items that you don't want Lily to break.
That's a good point.
And then we could have like comfy little sofas. I mean, this is like an imaginary house because I don't know how this setup would work, but just like a cozy little space where I feel like if the day's gone really badly, you can escape to, and the child can't get to you. But then I think like once the child gets old enough and they have like a younger sibling, maybe they might want the quiet room, escape room to escape the little sibling.
Build
as well.
in an escape bunker.
Yeah, but like a cozy escape bunker. And then
You do come out with some
you
odd things
have
sometimes.
somewhere you can go and escape to.
Yeah,
You
sure.
think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy. This is my problem. I saw someone on TikTok do a thing where it's like Narnia. So it's a wardrobe and then there's
Yeah.
a door in the back and you
The
go
thing is,
through.
people don't know, if you don't know Emma, it's not that she just likes talking about this stuff. She'll actually want us to do this.
I will.
When we get a house, she'll
I'm
be
not
like, we're
joking.
doing it.
I'm
We're doing it. And I'll be
really
like,
serious.
but it'll be the first thing she wants to do. I'll be like, no, there's not
Yeah.
that, we need to, make the house. Yeah.
I'm
anyway.
very excited.
Yeah.
I think this is a good idea.
So we have a parenting tip this week.
Kirsty already gave the one about accepting help. Don't try and be a good host. And this is exclusively if you're formula feeding, this next tip.
Okay, very
So
good.
if you're not formula feeding, you can discount it. She said when you're first finding your feet, get those little bottles that are pre-made with the teats already on.
Okay.
Because she said she found that really useful to just not have to sterilize as much for the first week, just to have a bulk of those just ready to go.
Interesting.
Because we didn't ever use those.
No, I feel like this is a good example of it's just so different for everyone, and what works for one child might not work for another. Because for us, Lily got onto a particular teat. We used mam bottles.
We did,
and that was it. We couldn't use other teats or bottles or
but
formula
it's odd.
after that.
Sorry, this is a tangent. Other children I know have a favorite bottle for a very long time, whereas Lily didn't.
No.
She as a baby stage, but then after she hit 6 months, she'd drink out of anything. She did not care.
That's interesting because I always discounted those little pre-made bottles because of kind of cost, and I was always I could make it myself. I'm not.
Yeah.
But actually,
It's
Kirsty's
a good point for the first week.
thinks that they're actually quite a good investment for in those moments when you're just I need something quick now, and I can't be bothered.
And I can see as the first week's the hardest. It probably is. If you're going to do it for a week, do it for that week. Yeah.
Yeah, great, good tip.
Good tip.
Good tip. You don't have to agree with the tips. You don't have to agree with us. You can send us your own tips.
You can disagree with everything.
Yeah.
That is always an option.
Send us what your thoughts are, and we'll feature them on an episode if you send them to us. So do that. So we're coming to the end of this bonus content episode. If you're watching along on YouTube, then there's various crafts and things that have been shown that basically stuff that didn't work wasn't long enough, was just rejected, and
Went wrong.
mix of stuff. So you can go and enjoy that if you're listening only and want to experience whatever would happening over there. Do share, subscribe. You don't have to do it on this episode because this is a strange bonus one, but all the other episodes, be great for you to,
I feel like I make it very hard for you to edit. I start off sitting really close and then I get tired and I come all the way back here.
Anyway, it's been great being with you this series, and we're very excited to come back with another series at some point soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope we've been enjoying doing it, and we'll keep chatting and talking about the stuff.
And we'll keep you posted when we're gonna appear again.
Yeah, pop up, appear, bidding, hello.
Oh, we haven't done Don't Eat the Baby.
Don't wake
Don't wake the baby.
I mean, if you don't have a baby, don't worry, but
Don't wake the teenager.
don't.
Oh, they get grumpy when they're woken up.
Yeah.
Telling you.
Don't wake the young one you're in charge of.
Yeah.
Just grab that extra 10 minutes and don't worry about it. This is I feel like we're meant to be ending, but I've thought of another thought. Not good.
What's your other thought?
I was thinking we often sat there, aren't we? It's not a case of don't wake the baby. It's a case of we want like another 10 minutes, and it's like please don't wake the baby yet.
Yeah.
It's like we need to get her up, but
Yeah.
we don't want to. We don't want to get her up. Have a good rest of your whatever day, week,
Day, night.
thingamabobby. Yeah, go back to sleep. Have a rest. Survive. Make it through. You'll make it through. Sleep well.
You can do this.
God bless and
Don't wake the baby.
see you on the flip side, chilling.